Hello, all you lovely people. Welcome to another Enhanced Edition where I'm going back to an old favorite with Cloud9's Quake Blast. This is actually not the Quake Blast that I used to have, that I have the video on, which you can check out up there. I actually sold that one and then regretted it pretty much ever since, and so I got another Quake Blast and then ended up doing a bit more work on this than what I did on the original one. Some of the same stuff, but then some extra stuff as well. And we will get into that more when we get to the robot mode, because really, there's not a whole lot going on here that's immediately noticeable. There are very small, subtle details that you might be noticing that I did actually paint, but I'm just gonna skip to the robot mode, I think, because I did not paint him for the sake of the gun mode. I just figured, we'll start in alt mode, because that's what we always do. So for anyone who's curious about what this guy looks like with the paint stuff that I did, which you may or may not be able to even notice in this mode, that's what it looks like as a gun with the additional paint apps applied. It's nothing spectacular in this mode, so we're just going to skip straight to the robot mode. After a little bit of mild panic because some of the joints on this guy are a little bit creaky, here is Quake Blast's robot mode, and here is where all of the paint that I added is actually readily apparent. So what did I do? Well, I did much the same thing that I did with the original version, the first version of Quake Blast that I had, which I already linked the video for, and that is I painted the face and I painted the chest. I painted the area around his eye in black, and then I painted the eye yellow. The first time around, I did the black in like a shiny black color. This time I ended up using a matte black because I didn't have matte black when I did the first one, but I thought the matte color looked better. I felt like the shininess kind of drew too much attention to the area around the eye rather than really helping the eye stand out super hard. So instead, went with the matte black and then did the yellow eye, and that eye pops so hard. Even from way back here, you are not missing that eye. And that was kind of one of my issues with Quake Blast, which is that I just was not super into the unlit yellow bulb for an eye. So that's why I wanted to paint it. The chest here, I did a little bit differently than I did the first time around. The first time around, I opened everything up, pulled this piece out, and painted the back end of this translucent piece in silver. Didn't realize until I went to do this one that the translucent piece here is actually made up of two pieces that are sandwiched together. So let's say this is the front piece of plastic, which is this flat one here, and then this is the more textured piece of plastic, which you can see in there. So they're sandwiched together like that. I painted the back here on the first one that I had, and it worked okay. But this time around, instead, I ended up separating the two pieces and painting the front part of the inner piece, so that when it's sandwiched together again, now that silver shows up much better and it shows off that texture in that chest area so much better. This probably hinders a lot of the light in the chest, but the thing is, I don't care because I don't want to use those light up features, so I actually took the batteries out because it doesn't make a difference to me. I just wanted the detailing. So I painted the face, painted the eye, painted the chest, and that, I keep bumping this arm, and that is the same, more or less, for what I did the first time around. However, one of the primary things that bugged me about Quake Blast when I first had him was how much these silver shoulders stood out. Because you've got the silver toes, the silver gun grips on the calves, the silver thighs, and then silver shoulders, but then the arms were entirely purple. It just made the shoulders stand out too much. The silver for the shoulders was just too glaringly obvious. So what I ended up doing, which you can probably tell, is I actually painted his elbows in silver, all the way around, on the inside and all that. I painted the elbows silver because rather than trying to match this purple and paint the shoulders, I figured it would make more sense to paint the elbows so that those joints now match these joints. And that makes things look a little bit more cohesive. And I actually really like how that turned out. As soon as I finished and put them back together, I was really impressed with how much that completely removes that distraction that I had, which, my eye kept getting drawn up to the brightly silver shoulders and it was just so distracting. But now He's got silver bits kind of poking through all across his body, which makes it look more intended, more normal. I'm sure it's not accurate, but I don't care. I just think this looks better. The last thing I did was I wanted to add a little bit more texture to this guy by bringing certain elements out, but not overtly, if that makes any sense. So essentially what I ended up doing was I went in with that matte black paint and painted a few specific areas in a few parts of his body that black color so that they don't stand out immediately. Like, they definitely don't pop like the eye does. But when you look at him a little bit closer, it just adds a little bit more texture, like down here, in the kneecap, in the waist section here, and in the torso, and up along here too. You can kind of see like in the shoulder and the forearm, that shoulder as well. I did a little bit also on the backpack here and on these bits, which these you could see in the gun mode too. Is like I said, the gun mode is not why I customized this guy. That mode I think is fine, but it's the robot mode that I really wanted to mess around with. And I think adding a little bit more texture via the black paint apps and the silver in the elbows, silver in the chest, the face, it just makes him, I don't know, it makes him feel more complete to me. I understand Quake Blast is not, he's not an accurate, like a super accurate Shockwave. He's clearly Shockwave because he's got the mono eye, he's purple, he's got the gun hand, he's got similar shapes here and there. I do understand he's basically a bulkier, more brutish, more armored up version of Shockwave. Personally, I think that's cooler than what Shockwave actually looks like, because vanilla Shockwave kind of looks like a dweeb. I like the bulky Hulk smash version of Shockwave, personally. With that in mind, I didn't really have to worry too much about accuracy, because he's not accurate to begin with. So being able to just kind of go nuts with it and add the details that I wanted to add to try and make other elements of the figure less distracting, I think turned out really, really well. All things considered, what I did with this guy was not very involved at all. It was just face, eye, chest, elbows, and then black details in a few places. More than anything, the elbows, such a big difference to me. But regardless, I'm super thrilled with the changes that I made to this guy. Like I said, they're nothing major, but this figure looks great, and in my mind, with those slight added touches, he looks utterly fantastic. Not trying to toot my own horn, I just really, really like how he looks with those additions. But I am curious, what do you all think of this guy? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you for watching, and please, stay fabulous.